Iraq. Your thoughts about the President's speech and that committed those troops and about his strategy overall.
Well, thank you. As some of your listeners and viewers know, I'm in the military. I'm 30 years this December, a lieutenant colonel, and I think about this on a very regular basis. And I thought that his speech was spot on in terms of setting up why we were there, what the problems were, and what we need to do. And I'm the only person in the race that actually agrees with him, and just shows you how far left that the Democrats are, especially with regard to a president in their own party who's trying to keep our country safe, and it's troubling. The strategy, I think, it was clear. We want to make sure that the Taliban does not once again come in to rule in Afghanistan and join forces with Al-Qaeda, and then basically put the citizenry back to the 13th century, number one, and obviously start to export terrorism by setting up bases throughout the region and the world. Number two. Number three, to make sure that there's not a move on Pakistan to get nuclear weapons ultimately be used in that ability to export terrorism.
And let me ask you a little bit about Pakistan. Mike Capuano would bring up the fact that the war has moved, that Al-Qaeda is set up in Pakistan. As I was listening to the President address the cadets at West Point, I became a little confused about the geographic region. It seemed at some times as if in some ways he may have annexed part of Pakistan, that border region, to be part of Afghanistan. It did seem, although he continued to reference Afghanistan, as if he was speaking about U.S. forces being in that border region, some of which I took to mean in Pakistan.
If you look a little bit back, Congressman Capuano voted against the war in Iraq and against the surge, and it worked, the surge in Iraq, and we're withdrawing, obviously. He voted for the war in Afghanistan, yet has not voted to keep our men and women safe by providing the tools and resources for them to actually do the job. You're right. What's happening now is they're actually pushing Al-Qaeda and Taliban towards the mountain regions. In Afghanistan, our coalition forces in the United States are moving this way into the mountain region, and by agreement, they're actually almost like a grinding stone. They're grinding them down to the point where they're going to be ineffective. And what it does also, it will demoralize, the Al-Qaeda and the Taliban from, reestablishing ties in that region. And Pakistan realizes, especially after a lot of the suicide bombings and the attempts to infiltrate their country, that they need to really start to pay attention, and they're working, plan to work closely with the Americans and the forces to stabilize that region. They understand what's at stake.
Two other things that struck me as I listened to the President the other night. One being that the government of Afghanistan certainly has problems with corruption. If we are going to succeed in Afghanistan, it would seem to me that we have to get the people of Afghanistan to be with us. That we aren't just sending the military over there, but, to use a phrase from the Vietnam War, that we are winning the hearts and minds, that they want to support the United States because we are showing them democracy. If we're supporting a government that is corrupt, how do we win that battle? Well,
there are very few perfect governments, especially with people we deal with in parts of the world. So to think you're going to have a perfect government show up and say, oh, here we are, it's not realistic. What you need to do is to convince Karzai to end a lot of the affiliations with his brother and others to try to get that government in a more stable and respectable period. So what do? Well, you have to, I think, ensure that you do win the hearts and minds of citizens by doing the country building. And remember, in those forces, it's not just all fighting warriors. It's doctors, nurses, lawyers, engineers, country builders to help build up and protect
different
the
than nation building, by the way, country building.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, we're not over there to nation build, but we are there to help rebuild Afghanistan.
To rebuild and stabilize so they can function in a productive manner and allow the citizens to get the benefits that the government is promised them. That's one of the reasons the Taliban ended up moving in, because the government was weak and the people were dissatisfied, and a lot of those folks said, you know what, hey, maybe it's going to be better. They were wrong, but they were repressed so dramatically, especially women. The thought of going backwards, I don't think people really want to do.
The third thing that struck me as I listened to the President was, I want to go back to what you said in a few moments ago about, another $1 trillion stimulus plan. Where would that money come from? People of America taxed out. They're talking about a war tax. They're talking about the billions of dollars that it will take to have 30,000 more troops, to have 100,000 troops in Afghanistan. Where's that money come from?
Well, put it in perspective. Iraq and Afghanistan to this time period have cost us about $800 to $900 billion. The Congress passed in a couple of days with one bill almost $1 trillion through a stimulus bill. And then you add in all the bailouts and everything else that they've done. They're printing money like it's going out of style. So now we're in a national debt of $12 trillion. Our federal deficit's $1.4 trillion. Those are very serious numbers. So how do you pay for that? Well, you can't pay for a new health care bill at the cost of $2 to $3 trillion, a new cap-and-trade energy tax, and then talking about supporting our troops, and then doing a second, third, and fourth stimulus. You can't do it all. So I would propose, living within our means and making the choices. We don't need a health care bill, especially here in Massachusetts. It's going to cost that much money. If anything, we could take some of those federal dollars and fix any problems we have here in Massachusetts, and let Massachusetts export our knowledge on how to do a good health care bill throughout the rest of the country. We don't need the government to come in and tell us how we're going to spend our money and what type of care and coverage, whether my wife or my daughters can get mammogram coverage, whether they should get it at 40, 30, 50. That's not up to them. That's up to the doctors that are in Worcester and Boston and Springfield that tell me and my family what's best for their care. And that's not going to happen. If you're an elder, you should be very scared because they're going to cut $500 billion. If you're a veteran, they're looking to cut TRICARE. If you have a business and you have an employee program and plan that's better than what the government's optioning, and soon the government option will be the only option, they will fine you and tax you. So it's very disturbing.
Should we pull our troops out of Iraq?
We are. We're gradually doing just that.
Right decision.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. We've served. The surge has worked. We're not there to be babysitters. We're there to stabilize the region, stabilize the government, help at a time that we were needed. And remember, we went in jointly. Everybody voted for it. May have been faulty information, but in hindsight is 20/20. You can't be a Monday morning quarterback. Now that we're there, we need to finish the job and pull back, incrementally, as I think is a good move. Rest our troops, redeploy them where appropriate.
Timetable in Afghanistan appropriate?
No, I think it shows your hand. It's like playing poker. If you're playing and you're about to get the straight, you say, oh, by the way, I have the ace, for the full house or the straight or whatever. So no, you don't do that. I think the president's, I'm hoping he's going to back off and just do it when it's appropriate. And if things are, and I think it's good in one way because it's forced the Afghans to say, oh my goodness, we really have to start to get our things in order here. And on the other hand, it's saying to Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, oh, by the way, we'll just hang tight until you leave. So he has a tough balancing approach. I appreciated his thoughtfulness and the fact that he learned about what the issues were, relied on his generals and civilian leaders, and then came up with a recommendation. I'm kind of surprised, and well, I'm not surprised that the people running in this race don't get it, and they're going to put our country at risk again. And they also want to do away with the Patriot Act. They don't want to support the fact that most recently in Sudbury we had a kid who was going to go gun down some folks.
Does it take away from Americans' freedoms, though? Is that a fine line for us to walk? What do we give up to remain safe?
Well, can you tell me one person that you're aware of in Massachusetts especially that's been affected by this, aside from the person that's in jail?
But do they have information on Scott Brown? Do they have information on Hank Stolz?
Scott Brown and Hank Stolz have nothing to worry about because we're not out working with Al-Qaeda trying to blow people's brains out.
I don't have anything to worry about today. Is it a slippery slope 10, 20 years from now?
It's hard to say, but I'll tell you the alternatives are that we could potentially have a massacre at the Solomon Palm Mall. As you know, the person was he's from this area, looking to blow people's brains out. And I think that some of our liberties and our personal safety outweigh some of the liberties that we may be entitled to.
Much more with Scott Brown coming up, and one thing that I want to ask State Senator Scott Brown about is about partisanship. Have we become so partisan in this country that it is almost impossible to get anything done in the U.S. Senate? That's straight ahead on Wake Up Worcester. Now more than ever, the new Worcester Mag is a must-read in and around Worcester. More colorful and more compelling, Worcester Mag serves up aggressively local and authoritative coverage of life in Worcester.